Hey guys, this is Ariane from founder of A Mother Thing Coming, and I wanted to hop on to a video because I feel like it's really important to share and help each other where we can. I was furloughed due to COVID-19, and while it was a bit like having the rug pulled out from under me, like a lot of people who have been furloughed and laid off. Blessings to you. It's been stressful, and the last thing that you want to think about is applying for jobs, but the reality of it is, and there's a train. I live in Georgia, so there's lots of trains. Anyway, so the reality of it is that we have to look for jobs. We don't know when industries are going to bounce back. We don't know anything, right? And so the beauty of the furlough is that everybody is coming together and they're helping each other. And my coworkers are no different. Like, we're all working together to help each other find jobs, and sharing recruiters and job listings that we're getting for each other. So I was fortunate enough to get a job. It was stressful and tiring, but I pushed through. I go on autopilot like that. When tough things happen, I tend to go into autopilot and go into survivor mode. But I know that that's not everybody, and it's not healthy for me either. I'm dealing with it now, but I'm trying to focus that energy into helping other people. And so if I reach over like that, that's me like making sure my computer doesn't lock, because I've got all my materials on the computer over there. So thanks. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about some interviewing stuff that I've kind of collected over my nearly 25 years of working. Don't be doing no math. 25 years of working in various industries, like from restaurant to retail to software to the financial industry to just everything. I've worked in a lot of industries. So what I won't do is go into like your respective field in a super granular way. Like, that's impossible for me to do. But what I can do is give you the tips that I've used in interviews for years. And I've observed and worked with a lot of recruiters and HR people. I'm friends with lots of HR people. I just want to let you know that, just so you know that this is not for nothing, right? Like, I'm pulling this information from somewhere, so hopefully I don't lead you astray. But this has been tried and true for me, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump right into it. At this point, I feel like, what is there, like 40 plus million people are unemployed, and who knows what the number is for Georgia. There are a ton of people who are going to be competing for the same job as you. So who do you know, right? It's literally about who you know sometimes. If you have a friend of a friend who works at the company that you want to work at, shamelessly reach out, be transparent, reach out to that person and, say, look, COVID-19 knocked the chair out from under me, and I'm looking for a job. Here's my resume. It's all about who you know. Now's not the time to burn bridges. Now's not the time to be proud. Be transparent, be honest. And ideally what will happen is that you'll get somebody to say, like, as a matter of fact, I know somebody, I have a friend of a friend, or even, you know what? I want you to work with me again, or I want you to work with me, for me. Here's a link, here's a referral link. And usually in that referral link, you'll see, for the company, you'll see listings of all of the roles that they have open, because now I feel like companies are pulling their lists that they have listed on the web, and they're constantly revising those lists to reflect what they can afford or what they now need, because everything's changing. So reach out to people, use your LinkedIn networks, and be kind when you do it. Be kind. Make sure that they're doing well. Tell them that, y'all, who's gonna help me do this hair? No beauty salon. Anyway, I digress. So be kind when you're reaching out to these people, and make sure that they're okay, and offer something in return. Say, you know what, however I can help you in return, let me know. Let's have, go out and eat after all this is over. Let's go grab a drink, blase, blase. Also, those referral links, usually those referrals are prioritized. Companies trust their internal people, and when internal people recommend employees to them, they pull them right on in, and they reach out to that person. They're like, hey, you know this person? Like, sure, we'll bring them in. So prepare. That's the next thing. Be prepared, in the words of Lion King. Do your research. Don't go into an interview like, hi, Ms. Johnson, it's nice to meet you. I see you're here for the project manager role. Yes, I can definitely do all the project management things. Now, what do you guys do again? No, ma'am. No, sir. Please don't do that. You would be so surprised at how many people go into a job, because there's so many businesses now, and they have cool names, or they go in because, they that's the role that they currently have, and they recognize that role, and then they go in and they have no idea what the company is or what they do. So do your research. And what I do to get to know a company is I definitely peruse their website, take notes, understand what services they offer, understand if they have a blog, great. If they don't, regardless of if they have a blog or not, Google the company, look up news articles about them from up to like the past 5-10 years, see what's going on, see how they're involved, learn all the facets and unique things, and impress them. Have that ready to just pop out, like when they're talking to you, just have that ready. Your resume. Make sure your resume aligns with the job description, which means you have to read the job description. Read the job description line by line. That is not the recruiter's job to spell everything out for you. That is not the interviewer's job to spell everything out for you. It is your job to read the job description and align it with stuff on your resume so that you will be ready to talk thoroughly about that when the interviewer and the recruiter asks you about that. If they don't give you a job description, you should ask for one. That is perfectly fine. You should say, I need a job description. I need to understand, I need to see in writing what this job entails. Don't let anybody just say, oh, I think this is what this is, and make sure the job is approved, that is approved in terms of budget has been allocated for your role, because I've been in a case where I've applied for something and they came back and they said, you know what, we didn't approve this job, so we're not gonna have it. So sorry if you're wasting your time. A little bitter. Okay, brush up on your skill set. If whatever it is, applying makeup, doing a house walkthrough, giving a presentation, coding, math problems, financial, spreadsheet, brush up on your skills. Make sure you don't go in there rusty. Try your best to go in there as fresh as you can with some stuff that you've maybe done on your own, and maybe some scenarios that were formulated through what you were doing before or currently. So, and at this time, there are so many companies, I know in the technology space, because that's the space I'm in, there are companies that are offering free resources and classes and services for free for COVID-19 impacted people. So I'll try and put some links below of some of those free services. That way, even if you're interested in doing something different, you can look into some of those websites and see what free gems you can get, and it's really cool. Let's see, what is next? Okay, be honest with yourself and the recruiter. If there is something that is on that job description that you can't do, don't lie. Please don't lie. Don't go into an interview lying. If you can't do it, be real with yourself. And I know a lot of people just want to be like, you know what, go for that job that you wouldn't normally go for, within reason. Now, I think that a lot of the time, recruiters can help guide you in that case. That's why you should be transparent with them. And you should say, nope, I've never done I've never touched Java. Like, nope, can't do that. You should be completely honest with them, because sometimes what they can do is say, well, maybe this other job would be a better fit, or even the job that you're going for could, you've got other skills that compensate for your lack of, technical skill, or your lack of, customer facing skill or whatever. So be honest with yourself and with the recruiter, because it'll definitely work out better for everybody. A lot less stress. Okay, so environment. These interviews, most likely, the introduction interview is going to be by phone, right? So lock up little Ray Ray and then put some headphones on. No, I'm just kidding. Don't lock your kids up. But yes, put them in a corner somewhere, have a conversation with them, let them know mommy's about to go on an interview, so you need to be quiet, you watch your show, you read, like, you have a conversation. And I think that nowadays companies are decently okay. They know everybody's working from home. You can kind of preface the interview with, hey, I'm at home with my kids right now, COVID-19. They're probably, I was in some interviews where, they had their kids in the background, but you don't do it. You don't have your kids in the background. You try to keep it silent in the background. My background's not silent right now, so don't be like me. Keep the silence in the background, because the brain, the way the brain works is that it associates certain things with you, right? They're gonna be like, oh man, that was the girl that had like all the stuff in the background. That's not what you want. It's just the way the brain works. I hate it, but it is what it is. So if eventually you get to a round where they're like, all right, this is gonna be a Zoom video call. We really loved you. We want you back. Round 4, do not come dressed like this. Don't do the quarantine dress, okay? Dress to impress. Dress just like you would be walking into the building, pressing the elevator button to go up to the 10th floor to have your interview and a panel discussion, at least from the waist up, okay? So, the actual interview. All right, when the time comes, the very first question interviewers usually ask, they ask, so hello, we've looked at your resume and we see that you've done A, B, and C, so why don't you just tell us about yourself overall? Now stop. This is a test, and interviews are way more psychological than we'd like to give credit for. This reminds me of when I teach my son how to summarize stories, and he comes and he's like, Mommy, I want to tell you about the whole book. And he tries to recite the whole book. Don't recite the whole book. Think about when you were learning to write papers, and think about an outline. You just want the main points. You want the main points, because they're going to look to see if you're going to talk too much. Because here's what will happen if you talk too much. If you talk too much, you give them too much to think about. Then when you give them too much to think about, the interview is going to start to go down the toilet, because they can't remember what they want to ask, because most times they're not taking notes. They're at home, they're multitasking, they need to hear trigger words, they need to hear important things. So you need to have that prepared in an outline. They are going to listen to see if you talk too much. They're looking to see if you are somebody who they're gonna want to work with and deal with 8 hours a day, every single day. So yeah, silence is golden. Like, give them a snapshot of who you are, name the main points, then your main strengths, the main interesting jobs that you've had or things that you've done, and then keep it moving. Keep it moving. Wait for them to ask the questions, because what you'll do is you'll provide them this outline of who you are and what you've done, and then that'll allow them the time to ask you the questions for you to fill in the body of the outline as they go. Let's see, what else? Communication questions, soft skill questions, like communication questions. That's the main one that I think is the most important that I wanted to bring to this content is when somebody asks you like, hey, what's your communication style? And, how do you implement that communication in your job? It's an important question. People really think that that's not an important question. If you don't have the right communication, the biggest of projects will crash and burn. They not only want to know how you communicate, what tools you're comfortable with communicating, how you determine who needs to be involved in what communication, when it's appropriate to bring the people in, how you escalate problems. I mean, I could go on and on. So really think about communication. Communication is big in any job, and I think that people really skip over it. And when you explain to them how important communication is, they're going to know that it's important to you, and that you find building relationships important. It's important to you. So when you are, introducing yourself, you're showing that you're a good communicator when you don't take too long and you don't talk too much, and you stop and you ask if anybody has any questions, and you don't completely dominate the conversation, which could also be a red flag. So yeah, communication is very important. Soft skills are very important, but we could do a whole other video on that. You guys just let me know if you want me to. All right, let them know. And speaking of tools that you use, let them know what you're comfortable with using, the tools that you've used in the past. People really forget to talk about the tools that they use. If you are, a UX person, you need to talk about what design tools you use. If you're a project management person, you need to talk about what project management tools you use, what budgeting tools you use. And if you don't have any tools that you use, you've got Google that can help you look up tools for the industry or that role that you're looking to get into, and you can get a free trial of that tool, and you can use that tool. You should use that tool, and you should say, hey, you know what? At my former company, we didn't have this particular tool, but I did the due diligence, I did the research myself, and I found that this tool would be useful in this way. And you can present a way, because there's nothing better than somebody who is just taking the initiative to do all that presentation work. That's super impressive, and it works every time, trust me. And it shows them that you were super proactive, which is really, really good. Okay, tools. All right, so behavioral questions are sometimes the meat and potatoes of interviewing rounds. So you want to tackle those behavioral questions, those questions that are like, hey, if there was a big project and it blows up, how are you going to present that to stakeholders and people who care about it a lot? And then how are you going to get it back on track? And then how are you going to show us that it's back on track? So questions like that, or how do you deal with conflict in the workplace? You need to approach these questions with a method called the STAR interview method. So what you do is you think, okay, let me think of a scenario that I had at one of my former jobs, and then think about the tasks that were involved, the S, the T, and then the actions that I took, and then the result that was the outcome of the execution of the actions that you took. So I would have 3 of those, at least 3. I would say 3 to 5 of those ready, so that you're not kind of like, I don't really know. So have at least 5 of those with some complexity, not like, hey, my bookshelf fell and I got a team and we picked it back up. I don't know, it was a terrible one, but you get my drift. 3 to 5 complex STAR scenarios for your interview, just to be safe. And I think that'll do the job. People are super impressed when you can talk about something you executed in that way, because it creates an order. Because a lot of times when we're nervous, we say things out of order, and then especially because they weren't there and they didn't work where you worked, it won't make sense to them. So that STAR method will give you that order of operations that will help make it make sense to them, even if they have no idea what you did at the company you were in before. Okay, weaknesses. We all have them. We all have weaknesses. Please don't go into an interview saying that you don't have weaknesses, because we all have weaknesses. And in that, I'm not going to tell you what to say. I'm not going to say you should say that your weakness is this and you should say that your weakness is that, because so many people think that, oh my God, they're just looking for me to just self-sabotage. I'm going to self-sabotage. You're not going to self-sabotage. What they're looking for is accountability. that you can, that you hold yourself accountable. And that's huge. And your maturity level. And they're going to look to see about your growth. So if you do say like, hey, you know what? My weakness is A and B, and I know it's an issue, but this is what I do to manage it. And I know that from, here going forward, I can no longer do A and I have to do B and C. And they can see and hear that growth, and that is what they're looking for. I say, use your best judgment, right? You have to, discern like, hey, is this conversation a conversation where, I can truly be super, super, not intimate, but like disclose a lot with this group. You can kind of get a sense, right? Like if it's a little bit ambiguous where you're just kind of like, I'm not really sure how this is going, I would use one that wasn't so, I guess, close to you. I would use one that's pretty general, but still something where a mistake was made and you worked with the team to fix it, and you did certain tasks, you executed them, and then this is the result, and so this is what you learned from it. So I think that that's an easy way to go about that. Next thing, ask them questions so that they know that you're looking for a fit for yourself just as much as they are looking for a fit for their company. I think that that speaks to a lot when you can ask them questions that aren't just like, yeah, so how long have you been in this building? No. You should ask them questions that show that you did research, that you're interested, you're curious. Like, what partners do you have? If you're a partner with Facebook or Google, like what is it that you do with Facebook and Google? And I've worked, I've done stuff with Google, and you guys can have like a conversation. That's what you want. You want to show that you're relatable, and that you can have a conversation, and that you're proactive, and that you're curious. So, be sure to have, I want to say, at least 5 questions ready to roll. And again, be mindful of time. If at the end of the interview, usually that question part is at the end of the interview, they're like, all right, so do you have questions for us? And you're like, well, as a matter of fact, I do. But you need to make sure that you're cognizant of the time, and that shows that you're good with time management. And then you also need to show that you are not talking too much. But also not having any questions, I think it shows a little bit of desperation in that they're like, hello, okay, Miss Johnson, we're done. So do you have any questions for us? No, not really. No, don't do that. Have some questions ready. Like, that's a terrible way to end. You want to end off in a way that they're like, wow, I really like talking to this person. Whether you, bombed it or not, at the end, just leave on a good note. Even better is there are a lot of companies who are doing wonderful things, free things, and offering resources and, to users. And you can say, gee, it's great how you're offering free domains to users. I think that's great. COVID-19 is really impacting everybody in a hard way, and it's admirable how you're helping small businesses, and you can speak to how, you're helping people, you're compassionate, your brand is compassionate, and that you are making a great name for yourself, and you're going to bring in new users for your product because your reputation is big. It's a good thing. Let's see. Following up. So after you've asked your questions, you have thanked them, you're not done. You have to follow up. You before the end of the day, if they give you some sort of email or an address, yes, you can still write a letter and a thank you note. Mama said there'd be days like this, okay? So you can write a thank you note, send it snail mail. That's super impressive. But I would also, on top of that, just in case the letter gets lost, there's that risk, send an email not only to the interviewer, whoever you can get a hold of, and you should also send a thank you note to the recruiter, but we'll get to the recruiters in a minute, okay? But that thank you note should entail how you're grateful for the opportunity to get a callback. There are people who would give their right arm for a callback, right? People are not getting callbacks. You got a callback. You need to say that you're thankful for the callback and you're thankful for their time, because they have like 1 million people they're interviewing at the moment. You should definitely pick out, a line or two to mention something positive that you guys spoke about or something funny, so that they really remember who you are. You should, if there was something that was there was a hairy spot in the interview, you can say, hey, you know what, I remember this came up, and I was doing a little digging. And then again, that research component, that proactive component, you want to incorporate in that follow-up. And you can say, I was doing a little digging, and you know what? This tool that you talked about was something super similar that I did in my company, or wow, I read about it and it sounds really great, and I would do A, B, and C, and D with that tool as a member or in this role at your company. And you should thank them again, and again, be super kind, and close it off. And connect with them on LinkedIn. There's no harm in that after you follow up, though. Recruiter etiquette. This is my last thing. We should love them. They are amazing. Don't ignore them. I know people who ignore recruiters, and I'm like, that's why? Why would you ignore them? You never ignore recruiters. And when you're interacting with a recruiter, you should give them what they ask for. If they ask you for a resume, give them a resume, and in a timely manner. If they ask you to take a quick certification so you can get it on your resume so that you're more inclined to get the job, you should do that. If they're asking you, hey, what areas do you want to live in? Are you only wanting remote? Like, don't waste their time. It's a waste of their time and other people's time too, because that job that's not a fit for you could be a fit for somebody else. And you're just adding more stress on everybody's plate and wasting everybody's time. I can't say that enough. Be responsive when they reach out to you. And also help others, right? Like, if there are positions that don't work for you and you know people they would work for, let them know. I have recruiters right now that I work with, like, still. I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't know who right now who could use this job, but if I think of somebody, actually I do know somebody, and then I can forward their information on. But yeah, don't be selfish with the recruiter. Help other people. And that's all I have. I hope this was helpful. I think you can benefit from all of these in whatever industry you're in and whatever interview you go through. Like I said, I can't, be super granular in your industry, but I can help you be a person that they remember and they appreciate in terms of interviewing. They have interviews all day. You can be the most pleasant one. You can be the one who stood out because you actually put forth the effort to go the extra mile to learn about their company and what they do, and actually care about what they do and who they are. And that's another thing. Even the individuals that interview you, if you know who that's going to be, sometimes you don't, but if you do, even look them up and ask them about why they like being in that company, and ask them about, their past roles and, what they enjoy the most. So I've got COVID-19 unemployment resources below, resources for free trainings and services from certain companies that are helping, and it's mainly in the technology space. If I see other stuff that would be helpful, I'll be sure to add that. But if you guys want more videos like this, or me to expound on anything else, I would be more than happy to. Be safe and be well. And thank you so much, and we'll chat on another thing coming. Bye.